Gable's paranoid, McAfee's missing, the funhouse is back, and a new stipulation changes the future of a world champion. All of this and more on an absolutely stacked episode of Monday Night Raw, live from Indianapolis, Indiana. This is About Last Night. Let's dive right in. Hey, thanks for hanging out on the Rumble Rewind channel for a bit today. I'm Brandon, and this is About Last Night. Now, this episode of Raw was absolutely stacked, but before we get into it, do me a quick favor, scroll down below this video and leave a like for me. While you're there, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, because once we make it to 200 subscribers, we're giving away a CM Punk t-shirt and hat to one lucky member of this channel, and it could be you, but only if you are subscribed. So, while you're there, you can also click on those notifications so that you can stay up to date on all of the latest information regarding that giveaway and to make sure that you never miss an upload from Rumble Rewind. All right, let's dive into tonight's episode. Like I said, it was absolutely stacked. We kicked it off with Drew McIntyre. He would open the show and cut a promo about Punk and about the bracelet that he stole from Punk at SmackDown. This bracelet has the name of Punk's wife and his dog, and apparently Punk wears it whenever he's away from his family. McIntyre said that now that he has Punk's family with him, he would use it to win Money in the Bank, and Punk would have to watch alone and in pain while McIntyre once again became the World Heavyweight Champion. McIntyre then kissed the bracelet to end the segment. Now later in the night, McIntyre would tell Pierce that he should be given a spot in Money in the Bank because of all the stuff that Punk has put him through. Pierce said that he didn't think that McIntyre deserved it and that everyone had to qualify. He especially didn't think he deserved it after he quit last week and disrupted both shows again. McIntyre told Pierce that he believed that Pierce would do the right thing because if he didn't, then McIntyre would show him the meaning of the word disruption. So we would learn later in the evening that Drew will face off in a triple threat match with Sheamus and Ilya Dragunov in a qualifier on Raw next week. Now, this continues to be one of the hottest rivalries going in the WWE and probably in pro wrestling overall. Despite not being able to make this rivalry physical yet, Punk and Drew are still doing some amazing storytelling, and honestly, I cannot wait to see them get in the ring. My guess is that Punk is going to get cleared just before SummerSlam and we'll get the match there, but we're likely to see him cost Drew his shot at Money in the Bank one way or another. I'm not sure if that'll be getting involved in the qualifier or costing Drew the actual Money in the Bank match. I honestly hope it's that one because that would just add so much more drama. But either way, Punk will cost Drew his opportunity at this, and it will continue to build until we get to SummerSlam. So that SummerSlam match is going to be incredible, though, and I cannot wait to see these two really get an opportunity to go at it. All right, the main story of the night walking in was Chad Gable and the Wyatt Six. Now, as the show opened, we would find out that Pat McAfee was not on commentary tonight. Cole says he doesn't know his whereabouts, but it does turn out that his show was actually hacked by the Wyatt Six a couple of times. So I'm assuming we'll find out at some point that McAfee was either attacked or he didn't show up for work because he was afraid. Either of those would totally make sense to me. So we start the show with Miz joining Cole on commentary. He would stay with them for a while, but eventually get called away, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in a bit. Now, early in the night, we would get a recap of the Wyatt Six's involvement in last week's show, and that would lead into a shot of Chad Gable entering the arena. He was walking through the parking garage surrounded by security, told cameras that he wasn't doing this right now, and attempted to cover his face as he entered the building. Now later, from outside of Gable's dressing room, Kathy Kelly would share that many other superstars were actually shocked that Chad Gable was there at all, that she had yet to be able to confirm Chad's involvement in his match tonight or learn the extent of his injuries. Now, a little later, we would see Kathy Kelly again outside of Chad Gable's dressing room. She said that medical staff and Adam Pearce were in the dressing room with him. Pearce would emerge and he said that Gable was cleared to compete. When asked about Gable's mental state, Pearce said that it's not his story to tell. Now, a little later, we would see this match in which Chad Gable would face off against Braun Strowman and Bronson Reed in a triple threat Money in the Bank qualifying match. This match would end, though, after Judgment Day attacked Strowman. This would allow Gable to hit distracted Bronson Reed with a top rope moonsault and pick up the win. Now, as Gable is celebrating in the ring, you could see him call himself the greatest wrestler in the world, which I thought was amazing, just considering how his journey up and down through just being scared earlier in the evening. But as he's celebrating, the lights go off in the arena, the ringside area fills with smoke, and Chad Gable is suddenly clearly terrified. At this point, Nikki Cross emerges from under the ring, and she approaches him from the opposite side. But Gable rolls out of the ring and escapes to the back before anything else happens. At this point, Nikki goes to ringside and she hands Cole a taped up box and then exits through the crowd. Cole would later open the box to find a VHS tape inside that says, "Play Me." He had someone take it to the production truck to see if they could find a way to play it. Cole says he needs to find a VHS machine. So if you don't know what that is, it's actually called a VCR. They were quite popular back in the day. A little later, backstage, we would see Chad Gable knock on the locker room door of the Alpha Academy. Otis would come out and he asked if he could speak to everyone. Gable then attempts to apologize for his behavior, but Otis says he's sorry for what happened to him, but because he hurt Tozawa and Maxine, he is no longer family. Otis says he meant what he said, he's out. He goes back into the locker room, leaving only Maxine outside, who says she's sorry for what happened to Chad. They are genuinely glad that he is okay, but Otis may need some time. She offers to try and talk to him and heads back into the locker room. At this point, the Creed brothers and Ivy Nile approach and ask if Chad's okay. He says no, he's not, and that he needs help. Now, we've kind of been expecting this for a little while, some Creed brothers and Chad Gable to kind of get together and form some sort of faction. I thought it was going to be an all-heel group that was similar to Team Angle back in the day, but this seems to be like a sympathetic teaming up, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it. We'll have to see where it goes. Otherwise, I'm really loving this whole story overall, so I'm going to give this part the benefit of the doubt and see how it develops. Sticking with the same story, though, a little later in the evening, we would finally see the contents of that VHS tape. In this footage, we would see Bo Dallas sitting across from Uncle Howdy in the abandoned Firefly Funhouse. Howdy asked Bo how it felt when his brother died and if he was exploiting his brother's legacy. Dallas speaks in a way that seemed so genuine, so real, as he said, "We were going to rule together. We finally made it, and then it was taken from us." He says, "They tried to forget, but we made them remember." This pans back to Howdy, who's smiling and said, "Yes, we did," as the tape concludes. Now, I could do a whole video unpacking this tape and this segment, and I may later on, but you can tell here that Bo is obviously still grieving, but he truly believes that this is the best way to honor Bray, to honor his brother. And I'm loving this story so far. I think it's just so good, and I cannot wait to see how it progresses further. I really think they're doing such a great job. Now, outside of the smoke in the arena, the story really does seem to be progressing in a reality-based way. Sure, Dallas sitting across from Uncle Howdy is not really possible, but they're in the funhouse, and the funhouse was always in Bray's mind. And they're showing Bo's internal struggle in just this truly, truly cinematic, really well done way. And honestly, I'm here for it. And I'm really hoping that over the next couple of weeks, we begin to see Uncle Howdy talking to the other members of the faction so that we can get some of their motivation and some of their backstory as well. I really love this scene telling us why Bo Dallas was doing the things that he did, why they're headed in the direction that they're headed. And I just thought it was so, so well done. But what are your thoughts? What do you think so far about this story with Bo Dallas and the Wyatt Six? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts on where we've gone so far and where you see the story progressing in the future. All right, let's move on. And what was actually the first match of the night, we would see Braun Breaker taking on Ludwig Kaiser. Now, this match was the result of the altercation last week on Raw, and prior to the match, Jackie Redmond would speak with Ludwig, who said he would prove to everyone that he was destined for greatness and Braun was not him. This match ended, though, when Sheamus interfered, attacking Ludwig from the crowd, and Sheamus would attempt to powerbomb Kaiser through the announce table, but Breaker would hit Sheamus with a spear instead and kind of be the last man standing. Later in the night, Breaker would go to Pierce's office and absolutely lose it over people getting involved in his business, and he said he wants a shot at the Intercontinental Championship. Sami Zayn just happened to be walking by, overheard, steps into the scene and says, "Anytime, any place, anywhere." Braun says, "Money in the bank," and Pierce makes it official. I like this intensity from Braun. I think that the story is advancing multiple feuds in a good way, including Sheamus and Kaiser and continuing Braun's feud with Sami. And Ilya was kind of involved there for a little while, so we'll have to see if that piece continues. But as it stands right now, we are getting some good storytelling from this feud. I do have a concern about Braun winning the Intercontinental Championship at Money in the Bank, as I hope it doesn't kind of turn him into WCW Goldberg. But that said, I honestly don't care who takes the title off of Sami. I just want it to happen soon. So I'm here for it. Let's go, Braun. Get that championship at Money in the Bank. We'll see what happens. But let me know what you think. Do you want to see Braun Breaker win the Intercontinental Championship at Money in the Bank? Do you want to see Sami continue his run? And if so, help me understand the love for Sami Zayn as a champion, because I just don't get it. All right, speaking of Money in the Bank, though, we did get another qualifying match, and that would see Kairi Sane taking on Shayna Baszler and Lyra Valkyria in tonight's Women's Money in the Bank qualifier. Late in the match, Shayna locked Lyra in the Karafuda clutch, but Lyra was able to roll through for a pin attempt, causing Shayna to release it. However, as she lets go, she's met with the insane elbow from Kairi Sane. Before she could go for the cover, Lyra picks her up and hits her with the Nightwing to pick up the win. This is a huge win for Lyra, and they're continuing to push her. However, I don't see her winning Money in the Bank. Again, I really think that should be a heel. It works best when a heel has the Money in the Bank briefcase. I do believe that Tiffany Stratton or Chelsea Green is going to pick up that case this time around, and that is what I hope to see happen. I think either of them would be great Money in the Bank briefcase holders and would do a really good job of telling that story. But that said, Lyra Valkyria has a bright future. She's definitely going to get her hands on a championship, and probably sooner than later. I just don't think that this is the way to advance her character. Hey, tell me what you think. Who do you see winning the Women's Money in the Bank? Is it Lyra Valkyria or somebody else? We still have a few open spots that will get filled out in the next week or so. But as of right now, I still am sticking with Tiffany Stratton or Chelsea Green, and thinking more than likely it's Tiffy time. Now, in another women's match, we would see Kaden Carter, Katana Chance taking on our women's tag team champions Alba Fire and Isla Dawn in a non-title match. So a really short match with the champions picking up the clean win, but the story happened after the match with Damage Control attacking all four women. Now, this match was just about giving Fire and Dawn some character, some credibility, and I really hope this Damage Control situation, them getting involved, them doing this attack, can kind of bring some life to both teams and both stories. They're just kind of floundering right now, and they need something to really give them a spark, and I hope that this is the beginning of that. I really believe that Damage Control can tell great stories. I think that Alba Fire and Isla Dawn can be great champions, but we need something to make them all compelling, and maybe putting them together will do that. Speaking of some factions getting involved with one another and fighting back and forth, we would see Karrion Kross take on Kofi Kingston. This match was set up last week, and it continues to be the story of the New Day and the Final Testament. Both men kept true to their word, though, and left their teammates, their partners in the back. But later in the match, the Final Testament is shown attacking Woods via the Titantron. Of course, this distraction allows Karrion Kross to hit Kofi with the final prayer and pick up the win. I'm still really curious, though, where this whole story is headed. My theory is still towards some sort of New Day repackage or breakup or something like that, and I'm hopeful that I'm right. The New Day as an act is just, it's to me, it's beyond boring, and it's beyond played out, and it really needs a change. It really needs something to bring life into it, or allow these guys to move on to other programs. Kross, though, for me, looked really good here. I'm glad to see him actually getting some time to develop his character a little bit more, and I really wouldn't mind him ditching AOP and creating a different faction with some more compelling people alongside of him. I do think that Karrion Kross's character fits really well for a faction leader, and so I would love to see that continue, but AOP just has no personality and they don't add anything to the story. And the same, I think, could be said for Ellering. I don't think he's adding anything to the story either. I think tonight in the attack on Woods, he had a line or two that I don't remember what he said, but it's the first time he's really spoken even on TV in a while, and I just don't understand why he's there. So for me, there's a lot of potential to this story, and I really hope to see it move forward in the future. All right, let's talk about Seth Rollins and Damian Priest. Priest would come to the ring later in the night to cut a promo about Seth and how he established the World Heavyweight Championship. But he said that Seth would never hold the title again as long as Priest was holding it. Now, that's just kind of how championships work, right? But I do understand what Priest was actually trying to say, and he was trying to say that he would never get it off of Priest. Seth would make his entrance, and then he would challenge Priest to a gentleman's agreement. Seth said that if Priest wins, then Seth would not seek another title opportunity so long as Damien was the champion. However, he said when Seth beats Priest, the Priest must leave the Judgment Day and prove to the world that he can stand on his own. Priest would say that the Judgment Day needs Damien Priest way more than Damien Priest needs the Judgment Day, and he would accept the challenge. This would bring Gunther to the ring, who praised both men for their contributions to the lineage of the World Heavyweight Championship. He said that Seth established the prestige of the new championship and carried it well. He said that Priest has been carrying the championship scene and Raw on his back since he won it at WrestleMania. And he said that he can't wait to see this match, that it's going to be an incredible match. And he said, may the better man win. He said, regardless of who that better man is, though, they would fall to Gunther at SummerSlam. Gunther was the hero of this promo for me, and that's not to take anything away from Seth or Priest. Both of them did a great job in their role, but this was probably the coldest promo I've ever seen from Gunther. He nailed it. He nailed it. And for me, I'm looking ahead at Money in the Bank at SummerSlam, and I cannot wait to see Gunther take on either of these guys. My guess is that Seth is going to lose somehow at Money in the Bank, but then Gunther is going to win at SummerSlam, which will make the Seth stipulation of not being able to challenge for the title really kind of not as heavy as it could be. But again, if Seth somehow wins, then Damien has to leave the Judgment Day. This changes the course of history for one of the two of them. It changes their future a little bit by really altering what their path forward could look like. But there again, my guess is that Seth takes the loss at Money in the Bank. Damien moves on to SummerSlam, where Gunther will win the World Heavyweight Championship, and we'll go from there. But tell me your thoughts on the World Heavyweight Championship and where you see it going from here. Do we see Seth win it, or do we see Damien Priest retained? And then what happens at SummerSlam? I'd love to know what you think about this story. Speaking of the Judgment Day, they had quite the story tonight on Raw. They were all over the place. We would see them first in the clubhouse. Dom, JD, and Balor would be eating chicken nuggets and playing the WWE 2K24 video game. Which, side note, if you play WWE 2K24 and you're interested in the DLC that comes out tomorrow, check out this video right here, and I'll tell you all about it. But Priest comes into this room and asks what they're doing. Dom tells him that all these gifts are from Liv, and in the midst of this, Dom would get a text from Liv that was apparently pretty saucy, and Carlito would say it was cool. Priest says that Dom needs to end this tonight and that the rest of the Judgment Day needs to be focused on Braun Strowman. Priest then leaves, and Balor tells the rest of the group that Priest is right and they do need to focus on Strowman, at which point they go back to playing their video game. Now, later in the night, Liv Morgan would come out to cut a promo referencing the gifts and the text. She asked Dom to come to the ring, but she gets Zelina Vega instead. Vega said that because Liv cost her shot at Money in the Bank, she wants a title match and she wants it tonight. Liv brushed her off and said she's in the middle of something, but yeah, next week, whatever. At this point, Dom finally comes to the ring and offers to help Zelina Vega win the championship. He said he doesn't like her and they've got a tumultuous history, but he wants anyone but Liv Morgan to win the title. At this point, Liv would attack Zelina, and the two of them would fight until Rey Mysterio came down and pulled them apart. A few minutes later, Dom would push Rey Mysterio to the mat, and Liv would look at him with googly eyes all adoringly as if he were her savior. Now later backstage, Liv attempted to thank Dominic for saving her, but Dominic would tell her to leave him alone. Morgan hugs him anyway, and Dominic throws his hands in the air and eventually leaves the scene. This would bring in R-Truth, who asked some questions about love being in the air and if Dominic was playing hard to get. Liv said he was, and she would love to do something nice for him and his friends. Liv says that she's going to go talk to Adam Pearce, and she's going to get Dominic a match with his father next week. At the same time, she asked R-Truth if he would give the Judgment Day members a shot at the World Tag Team Championships. He agrees, and she says to make sure to talk to Pearce. As Liv walks away, R-Truth says that he loves love, and he's going to make it happen. Later, Liv's seen in the clubhouse as Priest walks in, but Priest says that he hopes that was Dom ending things with Liv. However, in the clubhouse, he finds only Finn Balor. Priest says it looks super sketchy. Balor agrees, but says that Liv was there to tell them about the championship match that they would receive later in the night, and that Dominic would have a match against Rey Mysterio next week. Both men say that it seems too good to be true, and Priest says when that's the case, it usually is. Priest turns to leave, and Balor's facial expression towards Priest drastically changes. He rolls his eyes. He looks really just frustrated with the whole situation. And I think they're continuing to move forward in this story that Balor is going to turn on Priest at some point. We're just waiting for the time to come. Now later, Miz would catch up with Truth and ask him why he did this. Truth said he did it for love and that this was a classic rom-com. Miz told him that this wasn't about Dominic and Liv, but it was about them. R-Truth said, Miz, I love you, but only as a friend. This match would serve as our main event. Now later in the match, it looked like the champions had the win and would retain, but Carlito snuck to ringside and put JD McDonough's foot on the ropes. At this point, everything breaks down as Strowman emerges to chase off Dom and Carlito. Truth would hit his Cena-esque offense, and it looked once again as if the champions would retain. But at this point, Liv jumped up onto ringside to give Truth a hug. With the ref distracted, Liv dropped to ringside, clotheslining Truth over the ropes. This allowed Balor to hit the shotgun dropkick, followed by the coup de grace for the win, giving us new World Tag Team Champions. Cole said at this point it would be hard for the Judgment Day to ignore Liv now, and the three of them celebrated together. This match was a great close for the show. It was interesting. It was very overbooked to protect Truth and Miz, and I don't really know why. I think they could have allowed the Judgment Day to win a little cleaner. I do think the Liv Morgan involvement was important because it will give her some legs to stand on to say, I made you guys champions. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have won. I think that part of the story was important. The Strowman, Carlito, Dominic, Mysterio stuff made it a little bit extra, a little over the top in the booking and the protection of Miz and Truth, but I also get it as they're trying to continue the story with all of the members of the Judgment Day, which makes sense. All in all, I did enjoy the match. I am excited that the tag team titles have changed hands. I was kind of with the R-Truth and the Miz, the same as I feel about Sammy. Anybody else, just get these titles on someone else. I think the Judgment Day is going to do some good things with them. They will allow the storyline with Liv to really continue and develop in a good way as we get closer and closer to the eventual return of Rhea Ripley and the showdown between her and Liv Morgan. Overall, I've got to say, this show was fantastic. It can't compete with last week's Raw, which was absolutely the best Monday Night Raw we've seen in a long, long time. And if you haven't checked that out, make sure you hit this video here so that you can know all about it. But it was an incredible episode of Raw. Same could be said about this one, though. It continued the Wyatt Six story. It continued the Liv and Dom story. It continues several other stories. Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, Chad Gable. All of these stories are advancing very nicely. And we got a lot of information about Money in the Bank, which is shaping up to be an incredibly well-booked PLE, and I'm very excited about that one. But tell me your thoughts overall. How would you rate this show? What would you give it? For me, I gave last week's Raw a 9.5, and so I'm going to give this one a 9. It was a very, very good, very stacked episode of Raw that I highly recommend watching from start to finish. There were so many positive things about it, so many great storyline developments, and it was just really, really well done. But again, tell me your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to know what you thought of this episode of Raw. Well, hey, that is it for today in this episode of About Last Night. Thanks once again for hanging out on the Rumble Rewind channel. Before you go, don't forget, drop down below this video, hit that like button for me. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you're eligible to win that CM Punk t-shirt and hat as we get closer and closer to our first 200 subscribers and our first goal. We're super excited about continuing to grow this channel, continuing to provide content like this, and every like and subscribe helps us to do just that. If you're a fan of NXT, make sure you join us tomorrow as we talk about tonight's episode of NXT. Lots of great things happening on that. And if you're not all caught up with what's going on in NXT, here's a video for you to help you get caught up. Thanks once again for hanging out with me today on Rumble Rewind. We'll see you on the next one.